This video shows the protocol for bleaching worms to obtain embryos and demonstrates some tips and tricks that are critical for the protocol's success. You will need to use aseptic technique throughout the protocol, so you need to start with a clean workspace and a lit Bunsen burner. Loosen the cap of the bottle of M9 buffer so that it will be easy to open when you need it. Remove a glass serological pipette from the canister and insert it into the pipette aid, taking care only to touch the top end of the pipette. Pass the pipette through the flame of the Bunsen burner, moving from the top end of the pipette toward the tip. After you've flamed both sides, remove the cap of the M9, briefly flame the mouth of the bottle, and insert the sterile pipette. Avoid touching the pipette to the mouth of the bottle to reduce the chance of contamination. Add about 5 mL of M9 to the plate and tilt or swirl to loosen the worms. Holding the plate at a slight angle, transfer the worms and M9 to a 15 mL conical vial using the same pipette. Add enough M9 to fill the vial. Be sure that you use a clean, sterile pipette every time you use any stock solution so that you don't cross-contaminate your solutions. Spin the worms down in a clinical centrifuge for 30 seconds. Be sure you always balance the rotor with another tube, and wait until the centrifuge stops completely before retrieving your tube. Your tube should have a very loose pellet of worms at the bottom. Use a clean serological pipette to remove all but 2.5 mL of the M9, taking care not to suck up any worms as you remove the buffer. Now we're ready to bleach the worms. From this point on, timing will be critical, so be sure you have all of your supplies ready. Loosen the caps on the bleach vial and the sodium hydroxide bottle. Set your pipetters to the correct volumes. Lay your tube of worms on the microscope stage and focus on the worms. You'll see the worms swimming in the M9, blissfully unaware of their impending doom. Add 400 microliters of bleach and 100 microliters of sodium hydroxide. Immediately vortex the worms and put the tube back on the microscope. As the worms die from the bleach, they often stiffen into rods. The bleach will gradually dissolve the cuticle. Watch the worm indicated by the arrow as it bursts. This usually occurs at the vulva since it's the weakest point. You may also see the worms bend into a V shape after they burst. Once most of the worms in the field of view have burst, it's time to stop the bleaching process. Briefly vortex the tube one more time, then fill it with M9 to slow the bleach. Timing is critical, so be efficient. While you are centrifuging your tube, insert a new sterile pipette into the pipette aid. Your pellet will consist of the released embryos, which pack more tightly than the living adult worms did, so you can pour off the M9 supernatant rather than pipetting. It's important to pour with confidence, because if you are hesitant, you may dislodge your embryos and lose them. Now you need to wash the embryos 3 times with M9 to remove all traces of bleach. Using aseptic technique, fill the tube with M9 and shake it while you walk to the centrifuge to spin down the embryos. Again, insert a new sterile pipette into the pipette aid each time you're waiting for the centrifuge to improve the efficiency of the washes. After 3 washes, resuspend your embryos in 2.5 mL of M9 buffer. Insert the tube into the rotisserie and allow the embryos to hatch overnight.